You're listening to Long Listen, a space for deep dives into books that shape how we think, work, and live. No hype, no shortcuts, just thoughtful analysis, honest reflection, and conversations about ideas that deserve more than a 5-minute summary. If Bill Gates had been born in 2005 instead of 1955, would he still be Bill Gates? Would he still have stumbled into one of the only high schools in America with access to a computer terminal in 1968? Would he still have logged thousands of programming hours before most colleges even knew what software would become? Or would he just be another smart kid learning Python on a Chromebook, competing with 10 million others on the same internet? Now take it further. What if Elon Musk had been a boomer instead of Gen X? Would he still meme his way to Mars, build in public, move markets with a tweet? Or would he have grown up in a corporate era where personality was liability and innovation meant climbing a safe ladder? And what if Satoshi Nakamoto had released Bitcoin in 2023 instead of 2008, after stimulus money, after NFT bubbles, after regulatory crackdowns? Would it still feel like a revolution born from financial distrust? Or would it drown in algorithm fatigue and crypto skepticism? We love to believe success is about genius. But what if it's about timing? Welcome to Long Listen, the place where we slow viral ideas down and sit with them long enough to see what's underneath. Today, we're diving into Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, a book that challenges the myth of the self-made hero. Because maybe success isn't just talent multiplied by effort. Maybe it's talent multiplied by opportunity, multiplied by historical timing. And if that's true, the question isn't, am I good enough? It's, am I early or am I late? So what was Malcolm Gladwell actually arguing in Outliers? Not that talent doesn't matter. Not that effort is useless. But that success stories are incomplete without context. And he builds that case around 3 powerful ideas that most summary videos flatten into cliches. First, the birth date effect. Gladwell opens with Canadian hockey players and something almost absurdly simple: the cutoff date for youth leagues. Kids born in January, February, March were often the oldest in their age group. At 6 years old, a 10-month gap is massive. Bigger, stronger kids get selected. Selected kids get better coaching. Better coaching compounds into elite development. By the time they reach professional level, it looks like natural talent, but it started with an administrative calendar. Now zoom out. Think Ivy League admissions. Think about who gets early access to SAT prep, coding camps, robotics clubs. Advantage stacks early. Now update this for 2026. Think about Gen Z coders, born after 2010. They are growing up AI native. They don't learn AI the way millennials did. They prompt before they write. They build with co-pilots from day one. Millennials had to grind from scratch. HTML tutorials, Stack Overflow, debugging alone at 2 a.m. Is that experience valuable? Yes, but is there a structural advantage to being born into an AI-saturated world? Huge, especially in the job market. Pause for a second. Are you an early bird in your field? Or did you arrive after the wave peaked? Drop that in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Second, the famous 10,000-hour rule. This is where the internet usually oversimplifies. Gladwell references research by psychologist Anders Ericsson, who studied deliberate practice among elite performers. The idea wasn't, do anything for 10,000 hours and you'll be a genius. It was that mastery in highly structured domains, like classical music, required long, intense, feedback-rich practice. But here's what gets missed. The Beatles didn't just practice. They played in Hamburg for 8 hours a night, in front of live audiences, in chaotic environments. Bill Gates didn't just code. He had rare early access to a time-sharing computer when almost no one else did. It's not just grinding. It's grinding in the right pond. You can practice basketball for 10,000 hours alone in your driveway. That's not the same as training inside a competitive system with elite coaching and feedback loops. Look at K-pop idols. They don't just work hard. They train inside highly engineered systems. Choreography coaches, vocal coaches, image consultants, relentless performance cycles. The environment shapes the output, so when people say, the 10,000-hour rule was debunked, they're half right and half missing the point. Practice matters, but practice inside a fertile ecosystem matters exponentially more. Quick check. Are you grinding alone, or are you inside a system that accelerates you? Third, cultural legacy. This one is uncomfortable but crucial. Gladwell talks about how cultural patterns, like rice farming traditions in parts of Asia, shaped work ethic and persistence. He connects this to math performance and attitudes toward effort. Now bring that into the modern West. Hustle culture didn't come out of nowhere. Many Gen Z founders and high achievers come from immigrant families, where sacrifice, discipline, and upward mobility were survival strategies. We didn't move here for you to waste potential. That pressure is real. And in the startup world, what used to be an Asian math stereotype often translates into a coding edge, analytical rigor, comfort with technical depth. But there's a shadow side. Cultural legacy includes power distance, how much a society accepts hierarchy. In some corporate or startup environments, high power distance can kill creativity. Toxic bosses go unchallenged. Innovation suffocates under authority. So, culture can fuel drive and quietly cap imagination. And here's the big myth to debunk. Outliers is not saying success is predetermined. It's saying success is patterned. The patterns are social, historical, structural. You are not just an individual. You are an intersection of birth year, geography, culture, and opportunity windows. And if that feels unsettling, it should. Because it shifts the narrative from, why aren't I exceptional, to something sharper. What system am I inside? And is it designed to produce people like me? Now this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable. Because once you accept that success is structured, not just personal, you run straight into a bigger question. Does meritocracy actually work the way we think it does? We're told a clean story growing up. Work hard, be disciplined, stay focused, and the system will reward you. That's the promise. That's the social contract. But books like The Meritocracy Trap by Daniel Markovits and The Tyranny of Merit by Michael Sandel complicate that promise in ways that hit hard, especially for a generation debating inequality daily on Twitter and TikTok. Markovits argues that elite institutions don't simply reward merit. They reproduce it. The children of highly educated, high-income families are raised inside performance-optimized environments from birth. Private tutors, test prep, networking access, internships through family connections. By the time college admissions roll around, they look exceptional. But they've been compounding advantage for 18 years. Look at the Harvard admissions scandal. Wealthy families literally hacking the system through donations and fake athletic credentials. That wasn't merit. That was access wearing a merit costume. And it's not just academia. Roughly 70% of Fortune 500 CEOs come from a small cluster of elite universities. Is that because talent only exists there? Or because elite institutions function as gatekeeping networks? Now bring this into the digital world. TikTok feels democratic. Anyone can go viral, right? But look closer. Many viral creators had early access to production equipment, marketing knowledge, influencer friend groups, or algorithm literacy. Some came from creative hubs like LA or New York. Some were already connected to agencies. The algorithm amplifies, but it doesn't start from zero. And that leads to the question I want you to actually sit with. Are you lazy or locked out? Because those are two very different diagnoses. If you're lazy, the solution is discipline. If you're locked out, the solution is strategy. Michael Sandel, in The Tyranny of Merit, pushes even further. He argues that meritocracy doesn't just create inequality, it creates moral hierarchy. The successful begin to believe they deserve their success entirely. The struggling internalize failure as personal deficiency, and that's where it becomes psychological. When you scroll LinkedIn and see 24-year-olds announcing Forbes 30 under 30, you don't see their structural tailwinds. You see your own delay. When someone raises a $5 million seed round at 22, you don't see their Stanford dorm network or their VC-connected uncle. You see your own bank account. Meritocracy doesn't just sort people, it scripts their self-worth. Now pause again. Reflect honestly. In your field, tech, media, finance, art, do you feel behind because you're underperforming? Or because you entered a saturated phase of the wave? Think about crypto. Early adopters in 2012 didn't need to be smarter than everyone. They needed to be earlier. Think about YouTube in 2010. Think about AI prompt engineering in 2022. Timing compresses effort. That doesn't mean effort is irrelevant. It means effort interacts with timing. And here's the twist. Even the people who win often feel trapped. Markovits calls it a trap for a reason. Elite professionals work extreme hours to justify and maintain their position. The system that privileges them also consumes them. So if meritocracy is flawed, if success is partly inherited, partly timed, partly engineered, what are we supposed to do with that? Cynicism is one option. Blame the system. Opt out. But that's not the move. Because recognizing structure isn't about surrender. It's about clarity. If merit is partly myth, then strategy becomes everything. Instead of asking, how do I compete harder? You start asking, where is the next open field? Instead of climbing the most crowded ladder, you look for ladders still being built. And this is where the conversation shifts from critique to leverage. Because if systems manufacture outliers, then new systems can manufacture new ones. If Ivy League pipelines are saturated, maybe AI-native ecosystems aren't. If traditional corporate ladders are locked, maybe digital micro-communities aren't. But that requires a mindset shift. You stop worshiping the myth of the self-made hero. You start studying the architecture of opportunity. And that leads us to the next question, the practical one. If merit isn't pure, how do we game the system ethically? How do we position ourselves where timing, environment, and culture compound? In our favor? Stay with me. That's where it gets interesting. Before we turn this into a Gladwell fan club, we need to slow down. Because here's the truth. Outliers is brilliant storytelling. Netflix-level engaging, clean arcs, memorable examples, sticky phrases like 10,000 hours. But storytelling power isn't the same as scientific precision. Gladwell version 1 gave us a provocative lens. Success is structured. Timing matters. Culture matters. Opportunity compounds. But Gladwell version 2, the update for 2026, requires us to ask harder questions. Take the hockey example. Yes, many elite Canadian players were born early in the year, but not all. There are outliers inside the outliers. Not every January kid becomes a pro. Not every December kid gets eliminated. The pattern is real, but it's probabilistic, not deterministic. And that's where critics push back. Gladwell sometimes cherry-picks clean narratives from messy data. The world is more chaotic than his stories suggest, which is why it's useful to put outliers in conversation with another book. Range by David Epstein. If Gladwell emphasizes early opportunity and structured accumulation, Epstein argues almost the opposite. In complex, unpredictable environments, Generalists often outperform early specialists. Epstein shows that many elite performers sampled widely before narrowing down. They tried different sports, different interests, different domains. They were late bloomers in systems that reward adaptability. That complicates the start early or you're doomed vibe some people extract from Outliers. Because here's the nuance. Early advantage helps in stable, rule-based systems. Think chess, classical music, traditional academics. But in chaotic systems, like the modern creator economy, startups, AI-native careers, adaptability can beat early specialization. Think Tim Ferriss. He wasn't a teenage prodigy groomed in some elite performance academy. He experimented, pivoted, tested weird ideas, then rode the wave of online media at the right moment. Think Mr. Beast. Years of awkward low-view YouTube videos before the algorithm era matured. He didn't win because he was born in January. He won because he iterated inside a chaotic system until he cracked the code. Late bloomers thrive where the rules are still forming. So here's the balanced take. Gladwell shows us the architecture of advantage. Epstein reminds us that architecture changes, and this matters for you. Because if you hear Outliers and think, I wasn't born early enough, I didn't have elite access, it's over. You're misreading the message. The real takeaway isn't fatalism, it's pattern recognition. Yes, structured systems reward early positioning, but unstable systems reward exploration and recombination. And guess what era we're in? AI is destabilizing entire professions. Creator platforms evolve monthly. Remote work dissolves geography. Career paths are non-linear by default. This isn't 1985 IBM. This is 2026 Internet, which means Gladwell version 2 sounds different. It says, study the system, but also expect the system to mutate. It says, opportunity compounds, but so does adaptability. It says, timing matters, but timing windows reopen in new forms. So instead of asking, was I born at the right time? Maybe ask, am I positioning for the next timing window? And here's another subtle critique of Gladwell. He focuses heavily on macrostructures, birth year, culture, access. What he underplays is agency in reshaping environment. In 2008, you had to physically be near Silicon Valley to access startup ecosystems. In 2026, Discord servers and niche communities can replicate some of that compounding effect globally. The gatekeepers didn't disappear, but they fragmented. Which brings us back to strategy. If you're in a rigid, credential-heavy field, early advantage may dominate. If you're in a volatile, tech-driven field, curiosity and speed may dominate. So the smarter move isn't worshiping either narrative, it's diagnosing your domain. Is it stable or chaotic? Is it centralized or fragmented? Is it saturated or emerging? And this is where the real power lies. Don't inherit a narrative. Build a model. Read Gladwell. Then read Epstein. Read Markovits. Read Sandel. Don't just consume summaries. Let the ideas clash in your head. Because the goal of Long Listen isn't to give you heroes. It's to give you lenses. Gladwell version 1 told us the myth of the lone genius is incomplete. Gladwell version 2 reminds us the map keeps changing. So maybe the better question now isn't, was I born lucky? It's, what kind of system am I playing in, and how fast is it evolving? And if that question makes you uncomfortable, good. That means you're thinking beyond the myth. All right, this is the part where theory turns into leverage. Because once you understand that success is structured, that timing, environment, and culture compound, the obvious next move is this. If systems manufacture outliers, you can position yourself inside the right systems. Not perfectly, not instantly, but strategically. Let's turn outliers into a 2026 playbook. Hack 1. Hack timing. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Effort in a saturated field is expensive. Effort in an emerging field is leveraged. In 2017, launching a random dropshipping store was gold. In 2026, you're competing with optimized AI storefronts and razor-thin margins. So stop chasing yesterday's wave. Right now, everyone wants AI SaaS. Everyone wants YouTube automation. Everyone wants build-in public Twitter growth. That's crowded. Instead, ask, where is attention still early? Biotech, climate tech, longevity, niche AI infrastructure, underserved creator tools, specific blockchain ecosystems, like Solana, where Gen Z builders experiment differently than older Bitcoin maxis clinging to 2013 narratives. Timing isn't about predicting perfectly. It's about entering before consensus forms. Early Bitcoin adopters didn't need superior IQ. They needed early conviction. Early YouTubers didn't need cinema-level cameras. They needed low competition. Don't chase hype. Chase asymmetry. If a field feels polished, corporate, and overcrowded, you're probably late. If it feels messy, experimental, and slightly embarrassing, you might be early. Hack 2. Hack environment. Gladwell showed us environment shapes outcomes. So change it. Grinding in the wrong city, wrong company, wrong circle? That's like swimming upstream with ankle weights. For decades, if you wanted tech leverage, you moved to San Francisco. If you wanted finance, you moved to New York. If you wanted media, you went to LA. But here's the 2026 twist. Digital environments matter as much as physical ones. A high-signal Discord server can outperform an MBA. A niche community like indie hackers can be more practical than business school and cost $0 instead of $200,000. Still, geography isn't irrelevant. Energy clusters matter. Density of ambition matters. So ask yourself, are the 5 people you talk to most pushing you forward or normalizing your stagnation? Sometimes hacking environment means moving cities, switching industries, or simply joining higher signal online rooms. Your default environment is not your destiny. Hack 3. Stack advantages. You may not control your birth year. You may not control your parents' network, but you absolutely control combinations. This is where we link back to compounding. Think atomic habits logic applied to structural advantage. Small, consistent upgrades compound. Here's a simple 3-step system you can implement this week. 1. Audit your birth advantages. Be brutally honest. Did you grow up bilingual? Are you culturally fluent in 2 worlds? Did you have stable internet access early? Are you unusually comfortable on camera? Do you understand gaming culture, crypto culture, startup culture? Most people ignore their unfair advantages because they feel normal. They're not. Write them down. 2. Build 1 structural habit. Not 10. 1. Maybe it's networking once per week, publishing 1 idea publicly every 7 days, studying an emerging field 30 minutes daily, reaching out cold to 1 founder weekly. Track it like a game. Use Notion. Use Habitica. Use a spreadsheet. Gamify it. Consistency beats intensity in unstable systems. 3. Track compounding, not virality. This is crucial for Gen Z. You don't need to go viral. You need to get slightly better positioned each month. More signal, better network, higher skill density, more domain awareness. Think in 12-month cycles, not 12-hour dopamine hits. Now let's zoom out. Gladwell showed us that outliers aren't just extraordinary individuals. They are individuals aligned with extraordinary systems. So your move isn't self-blame, and it's not blind hustle. It's strategic positioning. Hack timing, hack environment, stack advantages. And here's the deeper mindset shift. Stop asking, am I talented enough? Start asking, am I positioned well enough? Because in volatile eras, and we are in one, positioning can outperform pedigree. You don't need perfect conditions. You need slightly better ones than yesterday. That's the cheat code. Not manipulation, not shortcuts, not luck, but awareness plus action. And that's the real update to Outliers for 2026. Success isn't random, it's patterned, and patterns can be studied, then played. Let's zoom out one last time. We started with a simple question. What if Bill Gates had been born later? What if Elon Musk had grown up in a different era? What if Bitcoin had launched at the wrong moment? And behind all of that was a deeper tension. The story we were sold versus the structure we actually live in. We were told success is personal, individual, earned in isolation. But what Outliers forces us to confront is something more unsettling and more empowering. Success is engineered, not in a conspiratorial way, not in a cynical way, but in a structural way. Timing, environment, culture, access, feedback loops, networks. These aren't footnotes to success. They are the blueprint. And here's the twist that matters. If success is engineered, it can be re-engineered. That changes everything. Because now you're not just asking, am I smart enough? You're asking, what system am I inside? Is it expanding or shrinking? Is it early or saturated? Is it aligned with who I am becoming? That's a much more powerful set of questions. And here's the motivational part, but not the fake motivational part. You don't need to be the most exceptional person in the room. You need to be in rooms that multiply who you already are. Don't try to be exceptional. Try to enter exceptional systems. That's the shift. Stop obsessing over being a lone genius. Start obsessing over positioning. Because when you zoom out far enough, outliers aren't mystical beings. They're people whose habits, timing, and environments compound quietly over time. Outliers aren't born. They're built, often by forces they didn't even see at first. So here's your challenge this week. What's one system you're hacking? Is it an emerging industry? A new community? A weekly networking habit? A niche skill stack no one around you is paying attention to yet? DM me. Tag it in the comments. I actually want to know what you're building. If this episode made you rethink how you see success, hit like. Share it with someone who's been doubting themselves lately. Subscribe to Long Listen if you want more slow, structural thinking in a fast, noisy world. Because this is just the beginning. For now, sit with this. Maybe you're not behind. Maybe you're just in the wrong system. And that's not a verdict. It's an invitation. Outliers aren't born. They're built. Start building yours.